Emanuel brought the House down in Des Moines last night at the Iowa Democratic Party's annual Jefferson Jackson dinner. The Chicago mayor, an Obama confidant, delivered a sustained attack on Mitt Romney and a full-throated defense of the president's record.
Republicans fought him every step of the way, but because of his leadership, millions of young Americans have been given a better chance. That is the change we believed in. That is the change we worked for. That is the change President Obama delivered.
And Mayor Rahm Emanuel joins us now from Des Moines, Iowa. Mayor, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So you gave this speech, and the beginning was a hilarious, if scathing, send-up of a lot of the Republican candidates. Newt Gingrich, Herman Cain, Rick Perry, and the others. So are we to assume that President Obama can't believe his luck, given these opponents?
Well, look, somebody's going to be the Republican nominee, and then it's up to the choice that presented for the American people. But what's interesting, regardless of the personalities, all of them are espousing the same policies that have been tried before and led to the present economic situation that the president inherited in 2009. Now, one of them have had a new idea that's different than was tried. And as I noted in the speech, George Bush got handed, and the Republicans got handed in 2000 record surplus, and they handed off a record national debt. And we didn't just come to that by accident. The president inherited an economy that was spinning towards nearly a depression, a financial system that was frozen up, an auto industry that was near collapse. And then everybody made some choices. Mitt Romney was clear about the choices. He would allow the auto industry to go bankrupt and the millions of jobs that were associated with that. But those are the choices, those are the values, that's the leadership, and that's what will be measured by the American people. So you look at the field, obviously you drew the conclusion you said. The policies, the same.
You did, in fact, spend a lot of time talking about the promises made and the change brought, as you put it in your speech. And yet one of the biggest changes that President Obama promised was to unlock the gridlock in this town right now, in this town since he became president. And he wanted to sort of have a different kind of politics. And yet here we are, stuck in the same political paralysis and with no sort of end in sight.
Wait a second. I've been through people that brought in impeachment, etc. Is it bad? Absolutely, there's gridlock. Now, let's take an example, Christian. He's offered a plan as it relates to dealing with the deficit panel and the debt panel. He's offered a plan, okay? And what they've offered is an ideology. He has offered a grand bargain, and they have refused to bargain. The Senate leader for the Republican Party said, my number one goal is to make President Obama a one-term president. Now, that's very hard to bring bipartisanship when that's the operating principle of the other side. So, is it bad? Yes. But no, is it bad? Absolutely. But where does the origination of the poison start from? And so when you have the opposition, President Obama doesn't walk around saying, my number one goal is to be the Republicans, my number one goal is to help America. Their number one goal is a political one. His number one goal is how do we make ourselves competitive in the 21st century? Yeah. Those are two different operating premises.
All right, well, let me ask you then about the current committee. I mean, the super committee was in part shaped by President Obama, and here it is now at the 11th hour, and it is apparently going to fail. They're not going to meet what they promised that they would do. And people are saying that President Obama hasn't been front and center enough in terms of, you know, doing that last-minute politicking.
Whoa. Back up. Now, the super committee was set up by the congressional leadership because that's where they wanted it. Number two, he put an insurance policy in there that if you fail, if Congress doesn't do its job, there is going to be an automatic cuts. And that was the insurance policy, both to motivate them, but to make sure that America got the types of changes and cuts and reforms that were necessary. Now, he hoped Congress would do it, but he had to buy an insurance policy. Number two, as I said before, he has a plan. They have an ideology. He has offered to work on a grand bargain. They have refused to bargain. They will not move. He has put things on that are dear to Democrats and said, as part of an overall plan, I will make that part of it. That shows compromise, that shows interest. They have refused to budge on a single piece of their agenda. That is not how you get to an agreement.
So let me ask you, you're obviously giving a full-throated, as we would expect, re-elect, rallying the troops for President Obama in this coming election year.
But Christiane,
obviously we expect
I was asked to give this speech at the Iowa Democratic Party, not to the Brookings Institute.
Right. But obviously, I mean, we understand that. You're a Democrat, you are the president's chief of staff. I guess what I'm asking you is, given your, passionate defense, given everything you're saying right now, and given the polls that, for instance, show that the majority of Americans think that the country's on the wrong track, they don't see the president as being able, at least 43% of Americans don't see the president as being able to lead them out of this economic bind. And furthermore, the latest CNN opinion research poll shows that if the election was held today, Mitt Romney would beat the president by about 51 to 47%. How do you deal with that heavy lift? How does the party, how does the president face that?
Well, first of all, you remind people where we were just 3 years ago and what has been done, but what needs to be done. And then second, as I do, I think, in the speech, there's a clear set of choices. Because when it comes to the decisions in that Oval Office, the outcome isn't clear. It's filled with fog. And your guideposts are your leadership, your judgment, and your values. Mitt Romney has revealed himself, and I believe as the campaign continues, more and more people will see who he's willing to stand for and who he doesn't really turns a blind eye towards. And that's the middle class.
I guess for the last year or more, the whole conversation in this country has been about budget cuts and cutting spending, etc. But with Occupy Wall Street and those movements, it's sort of shifted to the income disparity, to the inequality, to the 1% versus the 99%. Yeah. And now, though, you're seeing police departments all over the country really trying to move them off the streets. How much longer do you think that this movement can last? And do you embrace their ideals and what they're standing for?
Well, look, as mayor in Chicago, I firmly believe in protecting people's First Amendment right. That will never be encroached upon. I also have a responsibility to enforce the law, and that also will happen. And I don't think First Amendment rights and law enforcement are opposite. But you cannot be in public life and be callous to the angst that the middle class have in this country. Remember, in the last decade, for the first time during a period of quote-unquote economic expansion, the middle class lost ground economically. They had their standard of living decline. That's never happened before. Second, even before they got their feet underneath them, they were hit again by a recession. They got the double whammy. You cannot be callous to homeowners, families trying to send their kids to college, people trying to hang on to their jobs and grow their income, and not see what happened to them in the last decade.
Mayor Emanuel, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much.